Thank you for that introduction. My name is Ray Pettigrew. I'm a lieutenant with the Berrien Fire Department, and I've been there. I'm right now, the past 4 years, I've worked in the fire prevention office. I'm one of the inspectors and one of the fire investigators. I've been with the department a little over 27 years. Actually, before that, I started as a volunteer in '85, and I graduated from Evergreen, so I didn't go very far. So I apologize that Chief Marsh was not able to make it tonight. He's recovering from an illness and just didn't feel up to it. So he asked me to step in, and I've done some of the background work on the benefit charge. So hopefully I can answer any questions. I've got a short PowerPoint. I want to talk a little bit about the fire district, kind of where we're at and where we hope to be, and then how we feel that this benefit charge fits into this. And then at the end, hopefully you have lots of questions, and hopefully I have at least that many answers. So. Go there. Back on April 28th, the Board of Fire Commissioners for the Fire District voted to, they approved a resolution to put this on the ballot and it's going to be on the August 5th ballot for the primary, and it's Proposition 1 for a benefit charge. And I'm going to talk more about what that benefit charge is after I talk a little bit more about the fire district itself. Now, you all live in the area. Obviously, you're involved in the community, so you have some familiarity with the area. But we've got a map up here. This represents the North Highline Fire District. We cover the unincorporated area that between Seattle and Berrien. So Seattle borders us on the north and on the west. Berrien is down to the south, approximately 112th, and the line kind of jogs a little bit. And then over on the east side, it's the Duwamish River. That forms the boundaries of the unincorporated area. It's about 3.5 square miles. And the population of the fire district is about 19,000. That it fluctuates a little bit. So that's the population that we serve. But does anybody know how many fire apparatus are in service at any given time in the fire district? You have two. You have a fire engine here at Station 18, staffed with 3 firefighters, and then Station 19 over on 128th is also staffed with 3 firefighters. Occasionally at night they have volunteers, so there's a little bit more staffing at night. And occasionally, if somebody's not on vacation, they may have an extra firefighter, but that 3 at each fire station is the minimum. And so I've got a second map here, and get everything up here. This map, if you look, it's a little bit bigger than the last map. The last map was the boundaries of the actual fire district. This actually represents the service areas for each station. So you've got Station 18 here, and then Station 19 is the light green. That's their service area, and you may wonder, well, why is the service area bigger than the fire district? You may even wonder, well, why is a lieutenant from Berrien standing here talking to you about the Proposition 1 for the North Highline Fire District? Well, as a matter of practice to try to save money, the North Highline Fire Department basically does not have a separate administration anymore. They have one administrative assistant that takes care of the bookkeeping and the bill paying and works with the Board of Fire Commissioners. Everything else, all those other staff positions have been eliminated, and that service is provided now by the Berrien Fire Department, or King County Fire District number 2, by contract. And that's later on when I kind of talk about where we're at financially, that'll make more sense of that. But that's one of the moves that we've taken is through attrition. As fire chiefs have retired, as inspectors have retired, they've been, rather than been replaced with a full-time employee here at the North Highline Fire District, we've absorbed the duties in Berrien, and I'm the inspector. I cover the north portion of Berrien. I also go up into the unincorporated area when there's things that can be dealt with. A lot of the times the fire prevention activities are dealt with through King County, but we're able to do some locally here, and that's my position. Last year, between the 2 stations, they went on 4,554 calls. And you can kind of see the breakdown there. That gone are the days where firefighters just sat around cooking their chili waiting to go on fires. That's actually a fairly small part of the job that we do, the majority of it is medical aid calls, the vast majority of it. We go on quite a number of false alarms. In the building, or in the fire code, they actually instituted a number of years ago requirements to retrofit apartment buildings with fire alarms. Does anybody recall the Lighthouse apartment fire back in 2011? It was down on Des Moines Way, about 98th and Des Moines Way. That was a 4-story building built out of wood. It was in the summer. Everybody had their windows open. We've got video when the first fire engine, which was engine 19, rolled up. That entire building was burning. Everybody got out safely. There was one individual that the fire crews had to rescue from an adjacent building that also caught on fire. But a big part of that was, a big part of why everybody got out is because there was a manual fire alarm. Somebody pulled the fire alarm when they were going out. Everybody got out in time. So you look at this 278 false alarms and you think, well, that's almost one a day. And sometimes, like, well, just when I was getting ready to come up here, they had 2 to the same address. That happens, but we tell people all the time, we'd rather go on a lot of false alarms rather than go to real fires. And when we do have those real fires, those alarm systems get people out in a hurry. Carbon monoxide detectors are another reason why we have a lot of those false alarms. 42 hazmat calls, and then 526 other calls. We get people that call for they see smoke that may turn out to be a barbecue, but we go out anyway. Illegal burns, a number of public assist calls, things like that. So you can see that it works out to, I think I did the math and I promptly forgot it, about 12 calls a day between the 2 stations. So they're pretty busy. They have some days where they may go on 40 calls between the 2 stations, and other days it's not quite as busy, but they keep pretty busy.
So, what is the hazardous materials? What type of materials?
Hazardous materials would be like somebody spills chemicals. It can be something as simple as somebody overfilling their gas tank or a portable gas can at a gas station, and then we need to go and put some absorbent down to clean that material up. Other times it will come in as a natural gas leak. Chemicals that are used in industries that get spilled. So it kind of runs anywhere from very serious. A number of years ago we had a lot of calls due to white powder because of what was going on in the country at that time. So it kind of runs the gamut, but that's typical for us. Okay, so that's kind of what we do. So the 3 firefighters here and the 3 firefighters over at Station 29, or excuse me, at 19, they run their 12 or so calls, 12 to 14 calls a day, and they do their job, but that's got to be paid for by somebody, and that's paid for by you. So currently what our tax system, the way the tax system works is, because we're in King County, the King County assessor sets a value, appraises or assesses every house or every property in the whole county, but we're concerned about the fire district. They set the assessed value, and then the fire district taxes you at $1.50 per thousand. That's the base rate. That was set years ago when it was a lot of rural fire departments, and that was the rate that was set, was at $1.50, and that's what we're limited to with a few exceptions, but that's what you currently pay. If you go home and you look at your tax bill, or if you go online to the King County property information site, you can see exactly what your tax bill is, and you see how much you pay to the fire district. And it works out to $1.50 per thousand. So if your house is appraised at $150,000, then you're going to pay $225 a year for fire protection. We don't charge any additional fees with that, and you get all the services that we can provide to you. There are a number of properties in the fire district that are exempt. Now, there's some people that are exempt, senior citizens or low-income disabled people who get a break on their property taxes, and some pay nothing to the fire district. It depends. Those rates are set through King County. But there's other properties that are owned by, like all of the King County Housing Authority properties in the fire district. There's quite a number of them. Looking at it in terms of, if you look at the number of apartment buildings and the number of residential housing units in multifamily dwellings or apartment buildings, that represents approximately 20% of the housing units in the fire district, and they currently do not pay any taxes to the fire district. So, and that's funds that then need to be made up elsewhere. Get all these on here. So, the fire district has gone on for a number of years at that $1.50. Occasionally, they've had to do a bond issue to replace fire apparatus, whatever. But everybody, we're kind of climbing our way out of the Great Recession, but it's dramatically hit fire departments because our sole source of income, the only significant source of income that we have is those property taxes. Looking at the budget over the last 5 years, for every year, we've lost at least $1 million in our budget, approximately 20% of our budget. And some years we're even more than that. So we've done, I mentioned it earlier, we've done everything that we can to try to save, cut expenses because we knew that the revenue was down. We've used reserves. We actually are to the point where in 2015, if we don't find some other funding mechanism, those reserves are going to be exhausted. And it's called, we have a carryover that we use to get through the first of the year until the property tax revenue comes in April. And next year, we will not have enough money to pay all the bills prior to that tax revenue coming in. We've done other things that, as we've lost funding because of the property values going down, the fire district has also gotten smaller. In 2010, the city of Burien annexed a significant portion of the fire district, which cut revenue. Station 19 is actually in the city of Burien now, even though it still provides service to the fire district. That's been addressed somewhat through the contract, and then I already mentioned, I touched on the large number of exempt parcels, like the King County Housing Authority. There's also a large privately owned apartment complex that pays $129 a year and they have over 300 units.
Why is that?
It has to do with the way the taxes, they've got a specific exemption because of the income of their tenants. And so we need to address some of that equity to make sure that the obligation for paying for the fire service is spread throughout all the properties in the fire district.
Is that Coronado Springs?
That's Coronado Springs. Yep. So I mentioned we've used reserves over the last 2 years. We've also contracted that Mike Mars is the fire chief in Burien. He's also the fire chief for North Highline. In the past, there was a separate fire chief. Sometimes there was a separate assistant chief. The battalion chiefs that are on shift, that work the 24-hour shifts the same as the firefighters, used to work just for Station 18 and 19. Now they work for all 4 stations. So we've tried to spread out those costs. One of the other things that we've done to cut costs is we've put off replacing apparatus. Right now, 3 of our 4 fire engines are 2001. So they're 13 years old. The general guideline is a fire engine should be taken out of first line service, meaning it's being used every day at 10 years. You use it as a reserve, as a backup when the first line rig is out of service for about 5 more years before you retire it and sell it to either somebody who wants their own personal fire engine, and it's amazing how many people want those, or you sell it to a rural area that maybe only has 100 calls a year, and then it can still get some life out of it. But so right now we're really overdue on replacing 3 of the 4 fire engines. So we need to address this. We need to find a way to replace that lost funding, and what we feel is the best way to do it is through the benefit charge. This is Proposition 1. It's going to be on the ballot for the August 5th primary, and this is what it's going to look like. It's just a simple yes or no. As I talk about the effects that it's going to have, because I'm sure in your mind you're thinking, well, okay, this is great. We know we need to fund the fire department, but how much is it going to cost me? And I'm going to get there. I promise you I'm going to get there. We're going to talk about this, but I want to go through some of this part first. So this is how it's going to look on the ballot. And that's on April 28th is when the fire commissioners made that resolution to put it on the ballot. is anybody familiar with the benefit charge? You've heard of it before you saw it on the agenda for tonight? Number one, it's not a tax. It's not related to the assessed value, and that's how we can address some of that equity of having all parcels, all developed parcels in the fire district pay. A benefit charge it's a fee. Legally, it's a fee by the RCW that established it, and it's based on the specific attributes of your structure, namely the square footage and whether you have sprinklers or not. Those are the two things that are going to affect what your benefit charge is. So, and I'll get to the formula later, but basically, you get a value. Kind of the premise behind this, the law that allows the fire benefit charge, is that you as a property owner, as a homeowner or business owner, you get value by having a fire department. If all of a sudden there was no fire department, your homeowner or business insurance would go up significantly. So the law recognized that fire departments, I mean, we like to think we provide a lot of benefits. I mean, and I'll talk about some of those later, but one of the big ones is we provide a benefit for you saving on your property insurance because we exist, and right now, that if you had no fire protection, it's called a Class 10 community, which basically has no effective fire protection at all, no effective fire department. Right now, North Highline it's a Class 3 that we're going through a re-rating, and just because of some of the ways that they've adjusted the formulas, we may become a Class 4, but that's not going to have a significant impact on your fire insurance premiums. But so we're a very good fire department. We offer a lot of good services. Everything that they look at, the water supply, the training for our firefighters, our facilities, the equipment, everything, that by being a Class 4, you see significant savings on your homeowner's insurance. So it's calculated by that square footage. And I should have led with this. Your property, your taxes are actually going to be reduced. Right? Remember when I first started, I talked about the $1.50 per thousand. So if the voters approve it and we institute this benefit charge, the portion of your property taxes that you pay directly to the fire department is going to go from $1.50 down to $1. So if you own a $250,000 house, if that's the assessed value, instead of $375 a year, you're only going to pay $250 on the property tax portion. Now, then we add in the benefit charge, and I'll talk about the formula, but basically we calculate that benefit charge, that gets mailed out to you, you have an opportunity to review it, and that becomes the amount that is due to the fire department. So you pay both, you pay the $1 per thousand and the benefit charge, and that's the total amount due. Talked about some of these. If you're a low-income senior or a disabled person, and you currently get tax exemptions through King County on your property tax bill, those same percentages apply to, even though the fire benefit charge is a fee, not a tax, they've provided for that in the law, that you still get that same discount. Religious facilities, churches, and for religious education, 100% exemption, just the same way they are under the property tax laws. You do get a fire sprinkler if you have a building, whether it's your home or your business, that has a sprinkler system, you get a 10% discount. That would be if it was fully sprinkled. Right now, theoretically, the property tax, the way it is at $1.50, may actually work against you if you took the initiative to install fire sprinklers, because you're increasing the value of your structure, which would increase your taxes. So this is a way. I'm a big believer in sprinkler systems, that I've seen them work so many times, where building fires in the past that would have caused significant damage to the building, we just had to squeegee out some water and things dry out, but they never unburned. So we want to reinforce that positive behavior by including that 10% discount. And as kind of a matter of practical application, if you've got a 10 square foot shed, or 10 by 10, so 100 square foot shed, out in your backyard, it's not included in that square foot total for the calculation. Or if you have an improvement that's, again, that same shed, if it's assessed at less than $500 in value, that wouldn't be included. Also decks and porches, that a lot of homes that, you have, a wraparound porch or something, or a large deck, that's not included in the square footage. And so that's not part of the fire benefit calculation. There's, as part of the formula, that there's 4 different categories, and the factor based on the category, because a single family home takes less resources to, if there's a fire there, it takes fewer firefighters, fewer fire engines to put that fire out than if you have either a multifamily, a large structure like that, or mobile homes, or commercial. So based on the fire risk of the particular structure, we've developed these categories, and then there's a factor that goes into the formula to adjust that benefit charge. Here's the formula. So basically, and you don't have to do the math. We do this all for you, and then you're presented with a bill. But as part of this process, every year we have a hearing, and then and explain what the charges are. And then there's also an opportunity, there's a review board, that if you as an individual property owner have concerns about your benefit charge, you can come to the review board. We can go over it with you, make sure that everything's accurate, and address any concerns. So we'll do the math for you. Basically, it's the square root of the area of your house. So if you've got a 2,000 square foot house, it'd be 40 times 18. And what these first two, I don't have a pointer, but what these first 2 factors are is that determines the fire flow. How many gallons of water does it take to put a fire out if your house or your business is on fire? So we take that factor, and that number, or that portion of the formula actually comes from the Insurance Services Office. You may have heard of an ISO rating. It's similar to the Community Fire Protection classification that we use here in Washington. So we use that to determine the fire flow times the category, whether it's residential, multifamily, commercial, and commercial actually breaks down by square footage, or mobile home, times your cost by gallon. We've developed that cost per gallon. It works out to how we develop that cost is we determine what are the financial needs of the fire district, what is the cost of providing the fire protection, and we also calculate how many gallons of water, if the entire fire district was burning, how many gallons of water would we need to put that out? And then we divide those total, I think it's like a little over 65,000 gallons is what we calculated. And we divide that 65,000 approximate gallons by the total cost of the fire department, and that's your cost to deliver those gallons.
Sir, just a quick question. How does the water paid for? Comes into a hydrant, but I assume someone has to pay for the structure of the hydrant and, that kind of system, but is the water itself paid for?
Not for a fire. That's kind of the cost of doing business for the water districts.
Okay.
For fire hydrants, if you're building a new house and you're too far from a fire hydrant, you're going to pay for the fire hydrant. Otherwise, or if you're a developer and you develop a whole neighborhood, you're going to pay for all the fire hydrants. But the actual water that we use is actually one of the few things that's free and it's free for us because it costs the water district, it's the cost of doing business for them. They just figure a certain amount in there that it gets used. They actually like us to keep track of it because they have different people that evaluate their system and how much water they lose. And so if we're using a lot for training or a lot for significant structure fires, they want to know that so that they're not being penalized as though their system's leaking. So, good question. So cost per gallon, and then we have a balancing factor, and then we also calculate in the discounts. And basically what this whole formula is to come up to fairly apportion this fire benefit charge that is the resources needed to run your fire department. We developed this formula, and then the first portion where the fire flow for the individual houses or individual structures kind of balances out between each building based on the amount of value that they're giving to the fire district. So This is very similar. Most of the fire departments in the area that use a fire benefit charge uses a formula very similar to this. Sometimes they tweak it a little bit, but we're all essentially using the same formula. Okay. So as an example, right now, if you currently own a 2,000 square foot house and it's appraised at $250,000, you currently pay $31.25 per month to the fire district for the services that we provide. For the anticipated fire benefit charge that the fire commissioners have looked at and feel that we need to operate the fire department, what we would anticipate is for that same home, the charge would be $37.60 per month. So just a difference of $6.35 per month. So it's not a dramatic increase because we're gaining some of spreading the benefit charge to some properties that previously haven't paid it. And when we have about 5,400 parcels in the entire fire district. When you look at that $6 a month, it adds up and it allows us to meet our obligations and provide the service. There's some neat aspects that they've built into the fire benefit charge. The first one is, and I talked about that a little, I already briefly mentioned that, when you get your statement, if you have a concern about it, you can come to the review board and it's set up, that would all be spelled out. It's a certain time of year for about 2 weeks. We have the board active, and anybody that has concerns can come in and talk to us, and we should make sure that everything's right and see if there's any adjustments that are appropriate. You also there'll be a hearing each year when the fire commissioners set the fire benefit charge. They have an opportunity to give input there. It's limited to 60% of the fire district's operating budget. This isn't a blank check for us to just get a bunch of money that we can do stuff with. There's very strict limits on how we can apply it and limits on how we can use it. And you get to vote on it to institute it. And then once you institute it, you get a vote every 6 years. Kind of like everybody I'm sure is familiar with the King County EMS levy, that every 6 years it gets reauthorized. This is a similar program where if you're not happy with the way that we're doing things, you don't have to reauthorize it. We would hope that, and we certainly would expect that you would be happy with the way that we're managing your resources and that you would continue to reauthorize it.
So this benefit charge is for the whole fire district?
For the whole fire district, yeah. It's applied to it's not applied to bare land, it's only applied to structures. So any structure, anybody that owns a structure in the fire district would, other than churches and people who, because of income, like senior citizens or disabled people, are exempt from property taxes. Those are the two categories that wouldn't pay it, but everybody else does. Kind of touched on these. We feel it's a more fair and equitable way. It spreads that obligation out for everybody that owns structures, everybody that owns homes or apartment buildings in the fire district. I mentioned our fire apparatus have gone beyond the expected useful life of being first line apparatus, and so we want to start building into the finances for the fire district that ability to replace those fire engines before. As they get older, they get a lot of miles on them. They have a lot of complex systems on them. When I first started, everything was mechanical. It was really easy to fix. Now everything's electronic, and things break down. And as they get older, they've been used more. They break down more often, and then we're using the even older reserve apparatus to fill in for them. So we want to be able to provide that. I put a statistic up here. I don't know if anybody saw this in the news a few weeks ago. In King County, Mickey Eisenberg, or Dr. Eisenberg, he's the medical director, and each year in the fall or early winter we go to a class and for the instructors that we teach classes for the other firefighters, and they always kind of give us a pep talk. And last year he said, my goal is to surpass 60%. Compare that, we hit 62% this last year. Your chances of, that's our survival rate. Compare that to single digits in some of the large cities back east and stuff. We have a pretty amazing system here, and we want to continue to keep it going. So as part of that, having reliable equipment and purchasing like defibrillators. Hopefully nobody's ever had an opportunity to receive care from a defibrillator, but if you did, you know, we've got the equipment here, but those constantly need to be updated and stuff. And I also mentioned that other fire departments in the area have used this. Kent, Auburn, Woodinville, Fire District 10, which is now referred to as East Side Fire. There's a number of other fire districts in the area that really feel that that benefit charge, it allows us to stabilize our funding so that we're not subject to property values going up and down. And it allows the fire commissioners more ability to plan long range because they know what the income's going to be or what the revenue's going to be and provide the service that we're here for. Thank you.
Thank you.
That,